So I want to ask you gentlemen about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has pretty much been, you see, he got the hat up there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
He's like an enigma in, like, the black community, Hispanic. They just don't like him. A lot of people, and even some whites, don't like Donald Trump. But what is it about him? And I want to ask you, in particular for us, blacks in America, is Donald Trump as bad as they say he is? Is he good for us? What does he mean for the everyday person and the business owner like us on the panel here?
Yeah, I don't think Donald Trump is as bad as they say he is. I mean, people say that he's a racist, but I say we've had presidents who've owned slaves before, and you can't get any more racist than that.
Right.
So that's just my belief. I believe that he is in it he's in it to try to leave a legacy. And whenever someone is in it to try to leave a legacy, you want to be on the good side of that because they're going to be trying to spend some money. He's done a lot for the black community under the Trump administration. And a lot of people say it may be a ripple from the Obama effect. I don't believe so. Under the Trump administration, black unemployment for teens is at an all-time low. Black unemployment in general is at an all-time low. The participation rate is still high. Participation rate is when someone, let's say you have people who are looking for a job and they decide you have people who are looking for a job, they're still counted as unemployed. Then you have people who just give up. Then they're no longer considered in that group of unemployment. So the participation rate is still relatively high for black folks. So under Trump, man, we're winning. SBA loans for minorities and black companies are at an all-time high. So we're getting access to capital. Tell me where we're going wrong, man. I understand, man.
I believe you.
Same way we've had, racist presidents for the last 200 years. I think it's a misappropriation of understanding, number one, the political process, the responsibilities of the heads of state, what the president's responsibilities and capabilities actually are, and then the misappropriation of a lot of social political constructs, such as socialism, capitalism, Marxism, communism, Orientalism. All these things are not really understood because they're not taught at a grade school level, going into high school at a higher rate. When we used to have social studies in school, it was common knowledge to understand that most of us believe we're socialists and we're really not. I remember socialist France was commenting and using racist practices against the Vietnamese for over 150 years until it culminated into the Vietnam War. And they were creating tariffs in the Vietnamese land, and they were a socialist government. They went broke twice, and they're still having problems with the residents in France. However, in the capitalist government, what people don't realize is that which we try to put Trump in a capitalist box, but capitalism really speaks to private enterprise and keeping the government out of your business and not having the government democratize and amortize money against your free will. You should be able to earn your money, be able to disperse your money as you see fit. And being able also to protect yourself against undue taxes. And a lot of people don't understand that because they lump Trump into a box when in 2020, politicians are not just one way. The Democratic and Republican parties are not necessarily separate of each other because they operate together in the Senate and in Congress. What it is, they have certain agendas and embargoes that affect and help each other while in Congress. So if more people were more politically educated, they would kind of understand the complexity of, Eurocentrism and white supremacy. They would kind of because it's pretty complex when we get to the political sector, because we haven't, since the Civil Rights Act of 1866, we haven't been given the fair partition as we should. So it's going to make any president look bad, actually.
Yeah, I actually got that written down as far as breaking down some political terminology, because a lot of people don't know. And if our typical listener who hates Trump right now, are going to listen to these very educated brothers speaking facts and go, "Oh, they some coons right there. They got Trump because they so manipulated into believing if you ride with Trump and you have to be black that you Uncle Tom and you a coon." And that's crazy because I don't know where that came from or where. I mean, I guess it could say media and things like that, but to ask you guys this, break down some political terminology, break down the presidential's true power and where the power lies. And when we walk into these booths coming election year, because we're in the election year, and you hear the conversation of whether we should vote, whether we shouldn't, what's important, is it even worth it? Where is it important to vote? Break down some political terminology just to give our listeners a better understanding of how this shit really works.
I know. Well, it's most important to vote in every election. I've never missed an election since I've been able to vote. If it's from local to national, it's important to be heard. People actually died for you to have that voice, to be able to have that say. So it's important to be able to do that. I don't, I don't understand where there's a disconnect between how we as Black folks can benefit from being on the right side of the economy for once, for actually following with the tide, for trying to get with the tide instead of fighting against the tide. I don't understand that, and that's just something that eventually I've never been able to rationalize.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, logistically speaking, Sam, the roles of the president are quite simple. They're generally 5 roles. The president is the chief of state. He's the chief executive. He's the chief administrator, and he's the chief diplomat, and he's the commander in chief. He also does chief legislation. He's the party chief. He's the chief citizen. He's the chief of state, which refers in the president as the head of the government. He is the symbol of all the people. Does he actually enact laws? He has the ability to veto the laws based on the influence he has of the people. One common terminology that's very misunderstood is the Electoral College. Bush Jr. and Trump, people think they stole the election. It's absolutely impossible to steal a presidential election. The Electoral College goes through a process, and it's a political process involving lobbyists, which actually go and lobby and pull funding in order to influence a particular candidate in Congress. And this is what we don't understand as citizens. To get the politician to work for you, you have to hire them. So we're talking about lobbying and money in the form of lobbying to influence legislation. Anywhere from a local level to a nationwide level, lobbying is a vital cog in the political wheel. So when we look at some people that talk about Barack Obama and how he supported the LMNOP, whatever that movement is, right? And he supposedly supported it. No, that community forced his hands by taking their votes and treated it like capital. So now they created social capital by saying we're going to convert our votes into legislative dollars, which is lobbying.
Damn.
We don't do what we want, we don't vote. We have a particular sector in the country. We're going to unify as that sector, and we're going to sequester our votes. So if people understand that voting is just like cash, okay, tell you what, we won't vote. Tell you what, Democrats, you're counting on us to vote as Black people in America. Guess what we're going to do? We won't. We'll vote for Republicans just in spite until we get what we want. So it's all about, voting power and levying of the voting power, because the Electoral College elects the president of the United States. Lobbyists influence your local laws and your national and state politics, because the lobbyist has a personal agenda and influence based on your leverage as the people. Because those public laws are then converted into statutory laws that are then converted into codes and statutes of each Supreme Court within every state. And so you need strong lobbying and the ability to sequester funding.
Talk about the importance of local, understanding your local politicians, your governors, your mayors, your city Congress people, Senate people, and the importance of voting and how much of a voice we in our communities have when we go to the polls and vote for these individuals?
Well, one is like here in Indiana, we actually have one of the most liberal expungement laws in the United States. Now, that was decided at the local level. So if you or someone like people who are, let's say you had a conviction for marijuana conviction or drug conviction, 5 years after the fact, you're able to get your record wiped clean. You're able to get your gun rights restored.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That was determined at the local level. The federal is where, all the major federal crimes happen, but we generally have difficulty at the county and at the state level. We end up going to state prison. We end up going to county jail. So you want to make sure that the people who are in charge of the jail have the best interests of Black people or the people in general at the heart. You don't want you want people who are honest. You want someone who is principled. And the only way you're able to do that is to vote for your neighbor. And there's nowhere you can do that except local. No matter what, they're not going to go to DC. They're going to come, if they work downtown at the State House, they're going to come home at the end of the day. They have to look you in your eye. And there's something to be said from that.
That's right. With local politics affects your state of living. It affects your living wage. Everyone gets paid a wage, but each state has a living wage. There's a free website, Living Wage Calculator. Just type in Living Wage Calculator in Google. It'll give you a rundown of every living wage, meaning a wage you need to earn in order to maintain a basic way of life. Well, this local politics affect that. How you get state funding from the Capitol is affected by your local politicians, because you're talking about your senators and your representatives and your congressmen, which have to go to Washington, D.C. and convene on behalf of those particular group of people that domicile in that sector, be it Illinois, Georgia, whatever state of the union. It's addressed by the president as an economic fiscal partition of every 4 months. So you want to be involved in local politics in order to affect how your representatives, being the senator, being the congressman, and your aldermen in some areas, are able to represent you on a national scale, because we have a census. Always make sure that you file for the census, because you want to receive adequate partition of federal funding. Make sure you attend all of your local CAPS and DARE meetings, school politics. A lot of parents get involved in the school board, become president, become administrators, get involved in that process, so that, again, the local leverage of voting can bring back quality to your particular neighborhood. Maybe you need a stop sign. Maybe you need influence with judges in your particular district. It's really important that the local politics be understood, because a lot of that stuff goes overlooked. A lot of these local courthouses, the federal courthouses, which are district, and the municipal courthouses, which are circuit, we don't even pay attention to the judges we put in those seats. You wonder why the crime, the incarceration rate is so high. There's no regulation of these judges.
Yeah, in college, man, I actually helped somebody get elective judge, a lawyer get elective judge. When some of my fraternity brothers get in trouble or we get in trouble, hey, I helped the judge get elected.
Right.
So he's going to have a different kind of consideration.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah,